Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the news. It's Tuesday the 4th of November and we've got loads to talk about today. We're talking transfers, midfield transfers in particular. We've got a little bit of an update. I say an update, it's an interesting one to get into. Andy Mitten was talking on Talk of the Devils podcast yesterday about the latest with Elliot Anderson. And exactly what he meant and what he was saying is worth looking into. The bigger point potentially is the fact that he sort of, I would say, suggests that Manchester United are looking to sign 2 new midfielders. And that's kind of been reported here and there. A little bit of inkling that they might even want a second midfielder. But this idea that United are looking to get basically a whole new midfield is pretty exciting. So we're going to get into that. There's loads else to talk about as well. We've been linked with Endrick. I think we can put that one to bed. Zirkzee has been linked with Roma. And maybe a little bit of Ten Hag to Wolves as well, just to sort of wet our whistle on the previous manager front. But first of all, how is everyone? What you've been up to over the last 24 hours? Jockey Trot says morning, Joe. Good morning. Morning, Joseph, says Marcus. Let's get into our first story then. This is from Team Talk. It's talking Kobbie Mainoo. And apparently, now this is Team Talk. Team Talk are then talking about their sources. So I guess they're putting their name to this one. Kobbie Mainoo in advanced talks over shock Man United exit as overseas move explodes into life. Explodes into life. Hey, let's have a look. Kobbie Mainoo's January exit from Manchester United has edged closer to reality, with Napoli aggressively pushing a loan proposal that could finally crack Ruben Amorim's resolve. Teams Talk understands. Sources confirm that Serie A leaders are prepared to cover the 20-year-old's 45 grand a week wages in full and insert a purchase option, terms designed to tempt Old Trafford into releasing their academy jewel mid-season. We're not called Old Trafford. I know that people always will refer to us as the Old Trafford Club or the Old Trafford outfit, but you can't just say terms designed to tempt Old Trafford into a sale. That doesn't really make any sense. Amorim has repeatedly insisted that Mainoo remains essential depth, refusing to sanction any departure without a direct replacement. Yet, Napoli's persistence has shifted the dynamic. Club president Aurelio De Laurentiis has personally consulted the recruitment team at Napoli on how Mainoo would slot into Conte's high-pressing midfield. Obviously, Scott McTominay, Rasmus Højlund are already there. I guess they've got a taste of Manchester United and they're looking for a little bit more. Whether this is, let's assume this is true. This is Team Talk kind of quoting their own sources here. They're not saying according to reports. They're going with this. They're saying, we think this is true. Here you go. One senior source exclusively told Team Talk, if Kobbie goes, the door swings open for a new arrival. Ruben won't lose a body without gaining one. That will kind of take us on to our next story in just a minute. But before we do move on, it's an interesting situation with Mainoo, isn't it? Because I think what we all want is him to play for Man United and us to find a way to fit him in and to make him be successful at Manchester United. But the truth of the matter is, right now, he isn't. And that isn't the case. It'll be interesting to see what happens if Casemiro ever gets injured, if Bruno ever gets injured, which is less likely, but Casemiro getting injured isn't unlikely. It's a 33-year-old central midfielder that has had certainly discipline issues in the past with red cards and suspensions and stuff, and the odd injury here and there as well. It will be interesting what happens with Mainoo then. If he doesn't play even under those circumstances, then I would expect a loan to probably happen in January. It depends how much money United have got, who United can bring in. Like we said, I don't expect United to get rid of Kobbie Mainoo or let Kobbie Mainoo leave on loan without bringing anyone in. I think if it was anything other than a World Cup year, the idea of loaning him out would be mad. But obviously, he needs to get games. He wants to play for England in the World Cup, and at the moment, he doesn't seem anywhere near that. If he goes away to Napoli for 5 months and smashes it, wins the league with them, we see the pictures of him smoking cigarettes with Scott McTominay. Actually, you're probably not allowed to smoke the cigarettes if you're only on loan, are you? McTominay was allowed to, smoke ciggies in the dressing room because he was a full-time Napoli player now. If you're a Man United player doing that, even if you just won the league, I reckon you still get a shitload of backlash. But let's say that happens, then there's a chance, I guess, that he goes to the World Cup. But United would have to bring someone else in. It'd be such a shame that it would end up being like that. Obviously, losing the Carabao in the first round and not being in Europe, that's an extra minimum 10 games that Kobbie Mainoo could have been starting in. And not just would that have made him more likely to start in those specific games, but it also would have increased the likelihood of people being injured or rested in the league games as well. So, I'm sure Mainoo would have played a lot more if we'd have made the Champions League last season. But it is a shame, and the idea of him leaving is disappointing. What do people think in the comments? Only reason selling Mainoo makes sense is if his contract demands are unreasonable, says Brian. Well, I don't even think there's talk of selling him. I guess they did mention the insertion of a potential option to buy. But again, I think that's a little bit of wishful thinking from Napoli. Corn on the Kobbie is going to be a freak on a leash in Napoli, says Adam Kenny. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see on that one. I mean, let's move on to the next story, because if Mainoo was to leave, as that article suggests, United would need a replacement. And Andy Mitten was speaking yesterday on the Talk of the Devils podcast, talking about, well, an update. So let's have a look. What is the update? It'll be somewhere. He says here that Elliot Anderson is well positioned to join the club next summer. Now, obviously, that isn't January, so that wouldn't make up for a loan, potentially. We'll put the link as well, if it's not already. Put the link to this episode of Talk of the Devils in the description, please, Ben. Elliot Anderson is one that would be well positioned at the moment for Man United. I'm choosing my words extremely carefully. I started to go through the team, and right, that midfield is going to change in the next few years. So there's a few things that he says in this. I've watched it, and he says the way he phrases it, as he sort of mentions there, is very particular and very specific. So I don't think, I mean, Andy Mitten, as he always does, is making very sure that he phrases things in a way that can't be misinterpreted. So I don't want to misinterpret it. It seems like it wasn't 100% clear whether he was talking about well positioned to join in the summer or well positioned to get him in the summer, whether that was an indication of how well Elliot Anderson would fit in sort of tactically and technically at Manchester United, or how likely that deal is to happen. It wasn't 100% clear as to which he meant. So I think watch it for yourselves, and you have a listen and tell me whether you think he's talking about United's ability to actually go and sign him, or just Elliot Anderson's ability to fit in at Manchester United. The one thing that he does say though, which I think is a bit more emphatic, is that United would like to get 2 central midfielders. United want a complete, basically, overhaul of that central midfield area, potentially one of which could be Elliot Anderson. We all saw him against United. I think if you've seen him at all for England, for Forest, in the last sort of 12 months, he's such a controlling player in a way that United haven't really had probably since Michael Carrick left. Someone that, and I'm not saying he's better than every midfielder we've had since Michael Carrick, but someone that just gets the ball, gives the ball, gets the ball, gives the ball, does that so relentlessly and so excellently. I think there was a graphic on Monday Night Football last night, I don't know if anyone saw it, of the sort of line-breaking actions or line-breaking passes of sort of the midfielders in the Premier League, and he was by far and away the highest on that list. He's playing more balls between players into his teammates than anyone else in the league, which is obviously a fantastic thing. And yet he doesn't seem like someone that is rushing when he's on the ball. He never feels like he's being sort of frenetic or panicking to get the ball out his feet and to lay it off. He gets it and he gives it, and he does that consistently, repeatedly, and at numbers higher than anyone else in the league without looking like he's rushing. And I think for me that's the sign of a very, very good player, that he does stuff that other players try and fail to do and makes it look easy at the same time. I think he's really good. Dan United says, love the new hairstyle, Jay. Thank you. He's like Stevie G in his style, says Kez. The overhaul in the attack in one hit, I'm sure they'll do the same with midfield. It's like someone redeveloping the house, isn't it? Like, we get the conservatory done. We're just going to do all the bedrooms at once, and we're going to do the kitchen, dining room at once as well. Just get it done. None of this taking our time. Last summer, we just got the extension, put it in, new attack, sorted, and then we're going to get the whole midfield done all at once. Potentially. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? If you want a new midfield, get a new midfield. Rather than getting one, hoping they settle in, get another one. I guess the one thing you could say is if you get 2 players at once, does the likelihood of them both settling in immediately get, more unlikely? They're kind of having to do that together on the fly. That could be a bit of a concern. But it does look like United are interested in signing 2 midfielders whenever they can, basically. And I wonder if Carlos Baleba might still be on the list, because he certainly was in the summer. Is somebody wrestling in the studio? Yes, there is a small amount of wrestling upstairs. Let's move on to our next story then. What Man United passed on target Emi Martinez told his friends before Aston Villa struggles, and the 2 stars in danger of England hopes for very different reasons. Ian Ladyman on My Premier League Weekend. We're talking about Emi Martinez. Apparently, what's he been saying? He was telling his friends he was moving to United right up to the moment he realised he wasn't. Bit going that, innit? For him. Bless him. Martinez's links with Man United during the summer were well known, but I am told the Argentinian was absolutely convinced he was on his way to Old Trafford. See, I didn't particularly want Emi Martinez. I don't think he's that good. It makes me feel a bit bad reading that. All sad and that. Thought he was leaving. He waved goodbye to the Villa fans. Also, the front of that shirt, just go back up. Too busy. Too much going on. Maybe move this. If you're going to have the poppy and let's move the Adidas and the Villa a bit further apart. They're too close. Move the Betano down. Pop the poppy in the middle. That can stay where it is. Too busy, innit? You occasionally see people and all the features on their face are too close to the middle. Yeah, like a Nintendo Wii character. That shirt is that. Anyway, that's not the point. Let's move down. It basically, is that it? Oh, he was just telling people he was going to United, and he was wrong. Bless him. Do we wish we had him? I don't think anyone does, do they? I know this is perfect timing to slag him off, even though it's maybe unjustified. He did make a bit of a clanger at the weekend, didn't he? Leading to a goal for Liverpool. But, yeah. Unfortunately for him, he's had the rug pulled a little bit there by the sound of things. But that's football, baby, as they say. As Jason Wilcox texted him. That's football, baby. Do you know what I mean? Get used to it. And also, Villa are doing all right now. It'll be fine. What we got next? Endrick, according to ESPN Brazil, via the Madrid zone. And we're saying via them because they've translated it and they've formatted it in a nice way. But producer Ben was saying that this website, the ESPN Brazil website, is just unnavigatable. Especially to our uncultured, only one language speaking eye. So thank you to the Madrid then for that. Just in, Manchester United and Aston Villa were both interested by signing Endrick. However, they wanted to include a buy option in the loan. Real Madrid immediately said no. Immediately. I was just thinking if you could just get just maybe like a buy. No. It's immediate. No margin for error there at all. Leon accepted a straight loan with no option to buy. Has he gone to Leon?
I think that's the way it's going now. Yeah.
Oh, is it? So there you go. I mean, I'd put your hand up if you want Endrick at United. I don't. A sort of wonder kid who looks like he's nowhere near good enough for La Liga. Why would we want that? I know he's decent. He's got some technical ability and stuff, but I mean, that's not enough, is it? If he was anything other than a supposed superstar in Brazil, and you just look at what he's done in Europe, there's no way you would want him at United. He looks clunky, he looks slow, he looks a bit sluggish. I just think he looks nowhere near it from everything I've ever seen of him. I mean, I've not watched every game, and I guess there's a reason he was so highly rated in Brazil, but I can't imagine United wanting Endrick, and especially not with, without the ability to take him if he does do well. You're just getting someone who's probably not good enough on loan, and if it goes really well, you lose him anyway. Yeah, I'm potentially not interested. Soldier 4th Class says, we only want strikers who are 70 million and above. Interesting. Joe, what's your favourite Pokemon? Says Dan United 94. It's a good question, isn't it? I'll have a think and I'll answer it in a bit. Let's get on to our next story, though. Manchester United are interested in Vitor Roque and Barcelona could profit from the move. The English club is looking for a striker and has been monitoring the Brazilian, but the striker would prioritise staying in Brazil until June. Vitor Roque has been reborn in Brazil. After a difficult year in Spain with Barcelona and Real Betis, the footballer decided to return to his country to join Palmeiras and has now proven to be a successful move. The striker is back to his best form and helped his team reach the Copa Libertadores final. His performances have not gone unnoticed, and according to Sports Illustrated, United is closely monitoring the player and is prepared to make a €50 million offer. Let's have a look at this, because I don't believe this at all, to be honest. So he's got 13 goals and 3 assists in 28 games in the Brazilian league. Admittedly, he's only 20 years old, but I can't help but think if he's gone to Barcelona as a young kid, as a 18, 19-year-old, sort of failed there, didn't do very well at Betis, and is doing a bit better in the league that he was doing well in before he went to Brazil, before he left Brazil, should I say, I don't think that is a good person to be buying. Vitor Roque became the most expensive signing in Brazilian history. What? The Brazilian striker, who could be included in Ancelotti's squad for Brazil, has rediscovered his touch and is leading a Palmeiras side. Oh, he's the most expensive signing that a Brazilian club has ever made. Not in Brazilian history, because they've sold players for more than that, obviously. 25 million paid to Barcelona, plus 5 in add-ons for 80% of the player's rights. Palmeiras also agreed to honour his European salary, making him one of the highest paid players in South America. I'm not into this, and I don't think it's real. And because of that, we're going to move on. But I think he's 20 years old, did well in Brazil, came to Spain, was poor, gone back to Brazil, done pretty well again. That feels as though he's going to come back to England where, and I don't know exactly the ins and outs of what went wrong at Barcelona. But for me, I think that's let someone else take a risk on him territory, especially after you've already failed in Europe. Not that all of Europe is just the same, but I would err away from that one personally. Go on, producer Ben's just saying, but not this again.
I spotted it as I was going.
Why is there foot fungus all the time? How big a problem is foot fungus? How many have foot fungus? 3 to 15%, so it is wildly underreported because, 70% of people will contract it at some point in their lives. It's highly preventable worldwide. Estimates suggest that between 3 and 15% of the population has athlete's foot at any given time. View, Ben? He's riddled with it, bless him. Can't get his shoes on. He has to wear athlete's clogs. Let's move on to our next story. Zirkzee. Man United star edges closer to premature exit after latest development. Could that... Right, go back up. Contact initiated. First of all, this isn't Star Trek. Secondly, Manchester United star edges closer to premature exit after latest development. Could that be written with any more vagueness at all? Like, obviously, people on YouTube and everything is incentivized to be a little bit deceptive, and not necessarily deceptive, but you want to draw people in. You want people to read it and go, I think I know what that means. I want to know more. So, for instance, our title today talks about Elliot Anderson. It mentions wanting 2 midfielders, and maybe people will go, I wonder who those 2 midfielders are. But we've got a picture of 2 midfielders on the thumbnail, so you try to limit how sort of cryptic and sort of clickbaity you're being by giving enough context that it's exciting and people, are getting the story that they're being sold, but without giving everything away, because then what's the point in clicking on it? That's kind of the balance you have to tell. This is just fucking non-stop click, isn't it? Non-stop click. Contact initiated. Oh, interesting. That's good. Manchester United star. Well, star implies that it's one of our biggest and best players. Edges close to premature exit. Well, premature again. Well, they can't be close to the end of their contract. People probably don't want them to leave after latest development. And something's happened recently. This is just textbook clickbait, isn't it? As AS Roma have reportedly opened talks over a potential move for Manchester United forward Joshua Zirkzee. Now, I knew it was that, obviously. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to Joshua Zirkzee, but the phrase star doesn't really, I don't think of him as a star in the way that maybe you would with Mbermo or Bruno or, Delict or someone like that who starts every single week. Just think, come on. So according to Sky Sports Italia, the 24-year-old has instructed his representatives. We know this. We already know that Zirkzee is up for leaving in January, which makes sense. Again, think of Mainoo. You want some minutes before the World Cup, and Zirkzee had been a regular for the Netherlands up until recently. And it's AS Roma that are apparently in talks over a potential move. Unbelievable. Fair enough. He struggled for playing time. Fact. 58 games, 14 goals, 9 assists. That actually feels pretty good. Hang on a sec.
Probably at the bench a lot as well.
Has he got 14 goals for United?
I think so.
Zirkzee?
I feel like he's got about 4.
As if he's got 14 goals for us. Let me check this. I'm going on Transfer Market. So this season he's got none.
Oh, I think that's for Bologna.
Oh. That's his record for Bologna, according to producer Ben. I was going to say, because he got 7 in 49 last season, and he's got none in 5 this season. So he's got 7 goals in a similar number of games, 54. I was going to say, I was trying to do his like Twitter montage goals and assists highlights 2028 1080p montage in real time, and I couldn't think of 14 goals, but that's his record in Bologna. If only I'd read. There we go. He's up for leaving. We knew that already, and apparently Roma are one of the teams interested. It does seem as though it's going to be Italy, doesn't it? And as that article pointed out so clearly, his record in Bologna is more palatable than his one at United in terms of goal scoring. We just have to wait and see who goes in for him in January. And again, does that clear some space for someone else? Because we couldn't possibly let Mainoo and Zirkzee both leave and not bring someone in to replace them. The only problem is, if we're on the line in terms of PSR, yes, a loan for either Zirkzee or Mainoo would be nice because it gets you the wages back for the summer. But neither of them are on particularly crazy money, particularly Mainoo's, not on much at all. So what? 5 months of Kobbie Mainoo not being on the wage list, what's that saving us? 3 million quid. It's not enough to go and buy someone, is it? So that would be an interesting thing. Yes, I understand why people want to leave, but unfortunately, unless it's a full sale, particularly of Zirkzee, I don't think they want to sell Mainoo. I don't see how we could replace them unless we ourselves are getting a loan. But again, how easy is it to find someone that's good enough to play for Man United that another club is willing to let leave in January, especially on loan? We'll see. And our final story of the day, it's a bit of an interesting one. This is one of those, and just sort of something to take away with us. Wolves advancing in talks with Gary O'Neill and exploring other options in parallel, including Erik Ten Hag. 55-year-old discussed internally, and WWFC, which I think is what the Vince McMahon used to own, expressed interest in speaking to ex-MUFC boss as part of process. No imminent decision expected. If I am advising Erik Ten Hag, I don't know who advises him. Is it his agent? Is it his publicist? I don't know. Do not take this job. Don't do it. I know his stock will have fallen after leaving United a bit, especially after what happened at Bayer Leverkusen. But if you just let things sort of settle a little bit, you can try to brush away some of that Leverkusen stuff. They sold all the best players, and then they're annoyed at me for trying to come in and play the style that I told them I would play. I think he hasn't got away with it because you've lost 2 games, but he lasted so few games that they look as stupid as he does. He needs to go to a club where he's got a chance of like finishing in European places or winning a European or getting into Europe and producing something in Europe. And obviously that's not going to happen in England, but I think he needs to go to a league where, whether that be Turkey, whether that be back to the Netherlands, whether he goes to the Portuguese league, where his stock from winning 2 trophies and getting to 3 finals and getting a top 4 finish from Man United that's pretty good. If I'm advising him, go somewhere where you can win a lot of games and look like a manager that wins stuff, rather than one where you're in a bigger league like the Premier League, but you're hanging on for dear life with a team that probably isn't good enough to stay up. I wouldn't do that. He needs to look like a manager that wins things again. Because yes, it's all well and good keeping Wolves up, but what do you want to be, the next Sam Allardyce? If you want to go back to winning trophies and managing top teams, you need to show people you can win trophies. That would be my advice to him anyway, but, who cares, I guess. This is rude at Leicester all over again. Completely agree, Adam. There's no point. And Santanoch, safe to go back to the Netherlands. Completely agree. Go back to Ajax if they'll have you. Reset for 2 or 3 years. Win a couple of league titles. And then make another push for, I don't know, whoever needs a manager in 2 or 3 years' time. The world changes very quickly in football. You might get the PSG job if you do very well. You might get the Atletico Madrid job when Simeone eventually leaves. Who knows what it will look like in 3 or 4 years if he's had a brilliant spell back at Ajax. We'll have to wait and see. That's going to be all from us. We're going to be back later today. Me and Steve are going to be talking Manchester United. He's not been on. Me and him, we haven't done a video together in a while, so we've got a lot to get through. United's current situation, that draw at Forest and how optimistic we are for the next few weeks, with obviously some big games coming up and a chance for United actually to push on now and win a few games, more winnable run of form or run of games for Manchester United. So we'll look into exactly what's going on, why this change seems to have stuck, and what exactly we're going to do moving forward. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll see you in a bit.